Welcome to the From Concealment Podcast, the show for firearm enthusiasts who like to shoot, train, carry, and compete. Get ready for some shooting and sight, firearm and accessory reviews, and of course, insight on conceal carry. And now, broadcasting from behind enemy lines in the From Concealment studio, it's Pete Mitchell and Dan Sams.
Hey, Freedom Nation, this is Pete Mitchell.
And I'm Dan Sams.
And you're listening to Love Lines. Love Line for Guns.
You know what? I do have a story. Last week, I think I made some comments about my wife finding me attractive in the...
Yes, I remember.
Well, let's just say a listener contacted me. Keep it real vague. A listener contacted me, said, he's like, I immediately went home, put on my plate carrier. We'll change some of the details to this story, but let's just say he has quick release on his and it turned out to be needed, because as soon as his wife saw him, he tested out those quick release. So
I guarantee you, I 100% guarantee you that would not be the case in my household.
Yeah.
I guarantee you my wife would just look at me like, you're an idiot, and go on about her way.
I got to tell you, though, that's what I thought mine would say until she saw me in it.
No, you don't understand my wife. Let me tell you, we celebrated 21 years of marriage last Friday.
Nice.
I know my wife, and I'm pretty confident on this one. She would just look at me like, you're an idiot, and turn around and walk away.
That's awesome, man. Good for you. I am, well, you know your wife, so that's good. No, so we got so many things to talk about today, man.
Why do you think I'm not in a rush to go get a plate carrier?
Yeah.
I know I'm just spending money that I'm not going to see no return on.
That's awesome.
It's funny, man. When my wife and I were dating, I painted her some flowers, and I go, when those die, I'll buy you some real ones. But until then, we're done with this flower business. By the way, I'm not an artist. It was the ugliest painting you ever did see.
Way to go.
Not much of a romantic over here, I can tell you that.
I'm not surprised. I'm the opposite. What's funny is my wife is not as much. And so I'm like, I've written you more poetry. And she's like, I don't really get poetry. Forget it.
Nice. That's awesome.
I'll do all these nice things for her that I thought would just like make her swoon. And she's like, it's all right. You're good. Yeah, fortunately, she likes me for other reasons.
So she's like, is there food in the cupboard? Then I like you. We're good.
Yeah. She's like, you'll do.
You'll do. You'll do in a pinch.
Yeah.
I'm stuck with you.
So crazy things going on, man, that are worth talking about. Before the end here, I want to talk about some of the new guns that came out in 2020. So we've got some happy stuff to talk about, because there's just too much doom and gloom, and I think that'll be fun. There's some exciting guns that I'm interested in. But are you following some of the videos related to the election fraud? Because it's entertaining, I got to tell you.
For the most part, no. Because I believe there was a lot of election fraud. I don't know that there was enough to overturn the election. Might have been.
So that's where I've been.
At the same time, I'm like, it kind of doesn't matter. Like they're making sure Biden wins no matter what.
I fully agree. However, it is entertaining right now.
Oh,
and
sure.
The more that I'm seeing, the more I'm like, wow, you know what? Donald Trump might have won the election. Now, again, I don't like either one of these guys. But I watched the video of Purple Shirt Lady, because there's like two of those. And I was listening to where they're releasing, in court, what happened with these videos. They're like, and they're, blah, blah, blah. And they're talking about it. And I guess the defense says, well, that's been debunked. And somebody there is like, wait a minute, isn't this the first that this video is being shown? They're like, nobody's seen this video. How did you debunk? And so like the exposure for the fact checking being not legit was just kind of beautiful. And that's what made me happy. And then in addition to that, they show her running these ballots that weren't really being checked. And then they show her taking the same stack, running it through again for a double count. And I'm like, this is not the behavior of people who thought they were going to win legitimately. So really entertaining. Also, it makes me say, I just don't think we're having legitimate elections anymore, which...
I wonder when was the last time we actually had a legitimate election.
I don't know. Yeah, I've thought about that a little bit. Because we got to face facts that things were a little wonky even back in 2000. You know, like
See,
the whole
2000, that was Bush
Bush
and
Gore.
Clinton. No.
That was Bush Gore.
Yeah. No, I'm sorry. Gore.
And I think at that point might have been either that was the first time we saw shadiness going down, or because I mean that was when they're like, well, is this Chad dimpled? Should it count? And it's like, come on, man. Like people punch through, and I felt like that was where they start bringing in like speculation into the game of whether this is a yes vote or a no vote. Or whatever you want to say.
I honestly, on the dimpling thing, my personal standpoint is if you don't know how to vote, your vote doesn't count.
Yeah.
And I don't care what political party you're associated with. Literally, if it says you got to fill in the box completely and you don't fill in the box, you put a check mark, you're an idiot. Your vote shouldn't count. No idiot's vote should count.
But think about what happened back then when people started thinking, there is gray area here that we can leverage. And I think things either started to change then or had already changed then. But yeah, I'm just to a point where I'm not sure we have legitimate elections anymore. So that puts me in a place to not put a lot of hope in them one way or the other.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's going on. Watching your old governor, man, having some fun out there.
At least our sheriff came out and said he's not enforcing it. He goes, we're not enforcing anything from the governor. The problem is, okay, that's the sheriff department. We still have cities with their own police departments.
Yeah.
Like I live in unincorporated Orange County. So the sheriff oversees where I live.
Yeah.
But there's no shops in my community. They're all in cities, which the closest one is technically Seal Beach. And Seal Beach has its own police department. And Seal Beach has got its head up its butt, just like LA County. Like whatever LA County does, Seal Beach does.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like those guys can't stay open because they are going to have the Seal Beach police come shut them down because their city council has its head so far up its butt. They kept their beaches closed longer than everybody else because they're like, oh, COVID. Like,
yeah.
That was the reason. So the problem is, okay, great. The sheriff is on our side. What about all these police departments?
Yeah.
Are they on our side?
Yeah.
Or are they not? And I don't think they are.
Yeah. Well, speaking of all this, did you see the guy in New York that refused to close his bar and called it an autonomous zone? So, they arrested him.
Right.
Did you see? So he gets out on bail or bond or whatever, or maybe they just
goes back to open it up the next day because he doesn't give a rip.
Did you see where he supposedly ran over a sheriff?
And carried a sheriff on the hood of his car for 300 yards or 300 feet, something like that.
But then they arrested him and let him go the same night.
I think because of bail in New York. I think it might be a bail issue.
Yeah. So
but he and his attorney were like, none of this happened. Show us the body cam footage.
I know. That's what I'm excited about.
And I don't believe those cops one bit. I don't trust a New York cop. I don't care if you do.
For anything.
If you are a cop in New York, you are immediately on the wrong side of history as far as I'm concerned.
So we know that they can legally lie, that they do often lie. And so then here's my what's tearing me up with this story is that partially I want cops to get caught for lying. But secondly, on the other hand, like I really want for a tyrant to have been drugged 300 feet and have his legs run over. And so it's really hard. I mean, which one do I want to be true?
Yeah, see, again, that comes back to the whole violence thing. And I'm like, I'd love a civil war and I'd love to not have a civil war all at the same time.
I feel the same way. My thing, though, is if we are going to enforce unlawful...
I would like a peaceful civil war. I would just like us to be able to say, you know what? Let's just part as friends. You guys go your way. We'll go our way. We're done.
You know what? I would love that. Unfortunately, these are people who already want to tax the crap out of us. And
each side's still going to do it. See, here's part of the problem. I was thinking about this morning. Okay, when the Redcoats were here, they weren't our neighbors. They weren't our brothers. They weren't our sisters. They weren't our fathers and mothers. Maybe they were cousins, maybe. But even then, not really. We'd been so far removed from England by that point. But now the Redcoats, which are our modern day police and possibly National Guard, though we haven't seen that roll out yet.
There's somebody's cousin.
What's that? Yeah,
There's
that's the
somebody's
problem.
cousin. There's somebody's friend.
It's your brother, it's your sister, it's your husband, your wife. Now the redcoats are literally us. Yeah. And that's what makes everything so much more difficult to fight back against it. Well, when you didn't have the blood relation, when it wasn't your neighbor, that's one thing.
Well, this is the argument I've had, and sometimes not argument. I have a lot of cops that are agreeing with me, but I'll just walk them through it and say, like, if this is an unlawful, unconstitutional order and you're enforcing it, you're breaking your oath. And if you're breaking your oath, I can't ever know at what level you're going to be loading people onto trains. And the reality is, like, the example of the bar owner, that's his livelihood. So this is exactly what they did to Jews before. They took away their ability to earn by regulating them to ghettos and whatever. And eventually, like, they've taken away their liberty to such a degree, and they would use force all along the way. At some point, and really probably earlier, the response should be, we're not going to obey you. Well, if a man is going to try to take away another man's right to livelihood, and he's going to use the threat of force to do it, that the victim of that has the right to use force to stop him. And so from an ethical standpoint, I would say from a constitutional standpoint, if this guy in New York or wherever it was had actually run over this cop, I would actually say ethically, I'm not saying it's a wise thing, but ethically he's within his rights to do that, because that cop was going to use the threat of force, lethal force.
See, this is interesting because one of the, I got a sign on my wall. I've got what I call my culture wall, right? So it's all these sayings that I talk to my staff about that I are either principles that I live by or they're marketing principles, because I'm a marketer, right? And one of them I've got on there, and people always ask me about this. I call it my 3 check questions. Is it ethical? Is it legal? Does it honor God? Because interestingly enough, something can be ethical and not legal. Like what you're talking about right now might be ethical. It's not legal. You can have things
legal in the small sense. In the constitutional sense, I think it could be. But go ahead. I'm with you.
Right. Sure.
Yeah.
I'll concede that, but you'd have to also, you have to have the courts actually say that otherwise, because they're the ones supposedly that can interpret the Constitution. Yeah. But whatever. Yeah. You can have things that are legal that aren't ethical, and you could have things that are ethical, are legal, but yet don't honor God. And so that's why, for me, that's my check one, right? Does it honor God? Does it not honor God? This is one of those things that's really interesting that you're talking about, because like you said, might be ethical, not legal, at least under certain aspects of the law, could be legal under constitutional law. I mean, it's interesting, man, right?
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
Yeah. Well, and this is where the conversations I've been having, and I'm intentionally having these conversations with cops as much as I can, with others as well, but where I say, for your sake, it might be legal and be wrong. And I always remind them, everything Hitler did was legal.
Yeah.
I mean, he did legal stuff all along the way. And so sometimes the ethical thing and the thing that honors God is illegal. I mean, right now, it is illegal in some places to meet as a church, but it is a command for the saints to meet together. And so defying that unlawful order is actually the ethical thing and the right thing that honors God, even though it's against the law. So I want to avoid breaking the law as much as I can, but I'm having more conversations where I advocate that, and we're having these ethical discussions also with cops where I'm like, you need to think through where you will draw the line and not enforce unlawful orders.
And see, the problem is when someone controls not just your paycheck, but the big thing to cops is their pension. That's the reason why they become cops. They have really awesome pensions.
They do. Yeah.
And it's like, at what point do you risk losing the pension, which is why you've been there for 20 years?
Yeah. Well, and that's, it's a hard conversation, but I'm like, I have a certain amount of sympathy, but a limited amount of sympathy. Because
to me, I can understand their dilemma, but it needs to be a clear-cut choice. Yeah. You do the right thing.
Well, and I will gently remind them that there are certain lines that if they cross, pension isn't going to do them any good, because the things that will happen to them if they cross those lines, there's no way to collect pension while you're in that circumstance. And I'm just trying to slowly warm them up to the idea that there are going to be laws they have to break, orders they have to not follow for the sake of what is truly lawful. And I'm having those hard conversations, and I've got a few that are with me. And so I'm like, come on, let's you tell your buddies, because what I don't want is to be in a situation where you are loading up all the non-mask wearers or the people who refuse to get vaccines onto trains to take them to quarantine camps, right? Like those are the things that seem so far out of reach, but
not really.
Not as far as, I mean, like,
we put Japanese in concentration camps. I mean,
where we're at right now, 12 months ago, would have sounded insane. If I was explaining right now to people 12 months ago, they would have called me a conspiracy theorist, and they would have said, you're ridiculous. And I'm like, they're going to enact orders that are going to shut down 30 to 60% of all small businesses. They're going to boost corporations. They're going to throw people in jail for just simply not wearing a certain article of clothing. And they're going to be like, what? And if I'd have started explaining that, they would have said, you're a complete conspiracy theorist. You're a fool. What's wrong with you? And yet here we are in the middle of it. And I'm telling you, we're not that far away from the rest of it. And
does Ohio have a mandatory mask order?
Pretty much, yeah.
So do you wear it when you go to the store?
It depends. Sometimes I do, because if I don't, I can't buy groceries.
Right. Yeah. No. I'm with you 100%. So like the only time I wear a mask is because I have to literally get into the store.
Yeah.
And so so I wear it under my nose, right? Like everyone else.
Me too. Yeah.
So I can freaking breathe out my nose. And of course I'm waiting for someone to go, hey, it doesn't work like that. And I just want to go, that's the point, right?
It doesn't work the other way either.
That's why I'm wearing it like this.
Yeah.
And so, I got it under my nose, and I'm shopping at the store, and I'm at this one specific grocery store that my wife always refers to as the crunchy granola people shop there, right? Just to give you guys a kind of an idea of which grocery store. It's a chain, but it's the crunchy granola people, because they got the best fruit. And so I finally get up there, and it's an older lady who's checking me out. She goes, "Oh, you got to put your mask over your nose." And I'm like perturbed by this, right? I'm like, "Are you freaking kidding me?" So I put it over my nose, and I go, "It doesn't work, right?" Because I'm just like pissed. And you could tell that like ruffled her feathers the wrong way. And she's like, "Well, it's a store mandate. You have." And I'm like, "Shut up, lady. Just whatever. Check me out."
I've gotten the same treatment. And
then I rip it off right then as soon as I'm done paying, because I'm like, what are you going to do? Kick me out?
I do the same thing while I'm walking out. I take it off. So I'm like, what are they going to do? Ask me to leave?
You can't stop me. That's called false imprisonment. I'm leaving. So
there's so many interesting things related to this. One of the things that's interesting to me is the mandate here is supposed to have a variance for people with anxiety disorders, breathing disorders, whatever, right? But we know about like the lady at the football game who was socially distanced, not wearing a mask. When they came and asked her to put it on, she's like, "I have asthma, and I'm not supposed to." And because the mandate gives a variance for those kinds of issues, and they wouldn't accept that. And so they eventually tased her and carried her off and the whole thing. And so I'm like, what we know is, and this is how they get away with crap like this. They'll make a mandate and they'll be like, "Oh, but there's, don't complain. We have all these things for the people that need to not wear it." But then they don't actually allow for that. And
our stores have the loudspeaker, the recording come on. If you can't wear a mask, we invite you to shop online. It's like, I have the right to go shop.
Yeah.
I mean, I do. And you're a publicly traded company, so you don't have the right to stop me because you're publicly traded. You're not a private entity.
But this is the stuff I'm pointing out, is that while the mandate says you're allowed to do certain things, you're not. Like when they enforce it as if those exceptions aren't there. Right. And so I just remind everybody that, like, here's one more way that they're lying. A thing cannot be both true and not true in the same time, same place, and same way. So that crap is going on. Yeah, it's fun times. I'm just always wearing it. And when I talk, my beard pulls it beneath my nose anyway. So I'm just like, whatever. Here it is.
I was doing a podcast with Dave Negri, and he told me this great line. It's the one that I use. I might have shared this with you. And I keep waiting for someone to say something to me when I'm not wearing a mask. And I just want to go, look, I have CS. So don't you feel like an idiot now? Because doesn't that sound like a disease, right? But CS is common sense. I got common sense, baby.
Well, there's one version of the mandate up here that says if you have a medical condition, you don't have to wear it.
Well, yeah, I got CS.
Like, well, all of
my
us
medical condition is I got common sense.
Yeah, well, and I could say all of us have a medical condition. I mean, it could be a good condition, it could be a bad condition, but we all have a condition,
right.
So we're all exempt. And I actually pulled that in one store because their sign, mentioned that, and one of the owners actually said, "Thank you so much for not wearing a mask." She's like,
really?
Put up that sign because we don't want people to wear masks, and everybody has a medical condition of some sort. And so she thanked me. I was like,
it was funny. So I was going to my chiropractor, and as soon as I walk in, the gal behind the desk reaches for her mask to put it over her face. And I go, you don't have to put that on for my account. And she starts to laugh. She's like, no, I have to, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, hey, I gotta pause my membership here at the chiropractor because I gotta have a surgery coming up. And she's like, you're having it the week of Thanksgiving? I go, yeah, you can't do anything. And she goes, sure you can. You just don't tell anyone. I'm like, oh, you're my kind of people. You're my kind of people.
That's awesome. That is awesome. But yeah, man. Well, anyway. I'm afraid it's going to get worse. What did Biden's plan is to put in 100-day mask order nationwide, right?
He's not even going to be in office 100 days.
He's going to die before then.
Harris will be president long before that 100 days is up.
Yeah. Yeah. Does this not? I mean, I'm telling. I tell everybody, like, just think. Actually, there's a podcast I'm going to recommend called Blog and Mablog. From Doug Wilson, Blog and Mablog. Check out Blog and Mablog. Dude is a brilliant scholar, theologian. And he has one on all the election stuff where he just cites all the things going on. And it's just worth checking out. But it sure looks like the whole point of this is to get Kamala Harris in power. She only got something like 3% of her own party's votes. Right? She's so way far left, militant in her application. Nobody wanted her. So the only way you get somebody like that in charge is if you force it in. And I think that's what we're seeing here. And so, yeah, that's going to be exciting. Anyway, I probably shouldn't go down that long. We're going to get totally banned from Facebook if I keep talking like I'm talking.
Screw Facebook.
Now the nice thing is I think there's a lot of people with us. The more conversations I'm having, the more people are with us. It's interesting times. So
maybe in your area, but I'm telling you, man, I'm like the lone voice out here in California.
Pete, I'm sorry.
There are so few of us. So few of us.
Oh man.
I mean,
so if it helps, like I recognize, like around here, I mean, we're still limited in number, but people are starting to come out of the woodwork, man. Once you get a reputation for being a person of freedom out here, I'm making connections, and it's good.
So what's funny is my wife says to me yesterday, I think it was yesterday, she goes, so are we going to take a trip to Texas for spring break? Meaning we're going to go look at some homes in Texas. And I'm like, why do we got to wait until spring break? I mean, the kids are hybrid school anyway. If we just told them, hey, for the next week, my kid's got to be online schooled the whole time. What's the difference?
Yeah.
Let's just go. Get me out of here.
You should go. Actually, you might think about doing that pretty soon.
Well, what I told her is I go, look, you're the one that needs to find an ice rink because my wife's an ice skating coach. I'm like, you're the one that needs to find an ice rink that's going to hire you. I don't give a rip where we move in Texas. I don't give a rip where we move outside of California pretty much. So you find the place. I'm there. You don't have to sell me on it.
She could probably find so many more ice skating facilities in Texas than in Southern. Well,
ironically, not as many as you would think. Yeah, I'm kind of surprised at how many we have around us and how few there are in the cities that I've looked at in Texas. Now, if you go more East Coast, sure, but now we're basically in California 2.0.
Yeah.
And I'm not in favor of that. I mean, I'd have to move literally to West Virginia, because Virginia's gone. I'm not going to Virginia. That's crazy.
West Virginia, buddy. Mountain Mama. Take me home.
Yeah.
It's good times. Yeah, man. So, hey, do you want to talk about some positive things here? We want to encourage.
I think we should, but before we get on to some of your fun gun stuff, I just want to share this. This is from the latest, let's see, Guns and Ammo, January 2021 edition. They got an article in here, 2020 best states for gun owners.
Oh, yeah.
And I was just going to hit on one of the highlights here. So California, of course, my state, we are 47 out of 51. If you're wondering who's the 51st state, I'm sure it's District of Columbia is what they're factoring in. Yeah. So we're 5th from the bottom. Of course, New York is the absolute worst. Hawaii is the 2nd worst. Massachusetts, 3rd worst. New Jersey, 4th worst. And then good old California, 5th worst. And then it's DC as the 6th worst. We've got out here in California, we've got a magazine ban, meaning you can only have a magazine that holds 10 or fewer rounds. Let me put it like this. You can only buy, sell, or import magazines that have 10 or fewer rounds. If you had them before the ban, or if you had them during Freedom Week, they are legal to use and own. So all of mine were acquired during Freedom Week or manufactured during Freedom Week, because that's when I converted some of my 10 rounds to 30 rounds.
Of course.
No, seriously, it was. I had all the parts. I was just waiting.
Yeah.
And CCW were 2 out of 10, which is not good. So 10's the best. Black Rifle were 1 out of 10, because we're the ones that gave the world the boat oar rifle, as you all have seen our boat oar rifles. And the Castle Doctrine, this one was crazy to me. Okay, no, so Castle Doctrine were 6 out of 10. How can you not be 10 out of 10 on Castle Doctrine? That doesn't make any sense to me. Either you're allowed to save your own life from being murdered, brutally damaged, raped, whatever, or you're not. Like, how New York is 3 out of 10 on the Castle Doctrine. Like, they pretty much want you to be killed. And as far as the 5 best states, Alaska is number 1, which does not surprise me at all, right?
Yeah.
Idaho is number 2. Ironically, I wouldn't give their CCW 10 out of 10 for Idaho. I'd give them probably an 8 out of 10. They still got some crazy rules out there. Arkansas is number 3. Kansas is number 4. And Oklahoma is number 5. And for all of our Ohio listeners, Ohio, where was it again? I remember I told you what it was. I think you guys are like right in the middle.
23 for Ohio. Yeah.
Yeah, you're 23 out of 51. So at least you're in the top half. But yeah, fun.
Still not awesome, but we'll take what we can get.
Yeah. Arizona used to be, I think, number 1, and they're no longer number 1. Let me see where Arizona moved to. Actually, I take that back. No, I'm sorry. Number 1 is Arizona. I was thinking AZ was Alaska. I don't know why I was thinking that. Alaska's way far down.
How interesting, though, to be so free on guns. Isn't it a little strange that they went for Biden?
Yeah. I think, honestly, what it is all the California people moving out to Arizona.
You think so?
Yeah.
Enough of them that fast?
Yeah. Yeah, they were already kind of going that way because people were moving out there. I mean, it's so much cheaper than California. So if you sold your home in California, you could buy a huge place out in Arizona for cash. I think it's all the people, and same thing happened in Nevada. I mean, the reason why it turned so blue so quick, Californians moving out there and taking their politics with them, not realizing maybe that was part of the plan. If we could get more people to move out of California and infect the rest of the country, we can make everyone blue. Happening. I don't know.
I mean, that's happening. I mean, that is what's happening.
That's why Idaho, if you show up in Idaho with a California license plate, good luck on your car not getting damaged. They hate Californians.
I don't blame them.
I hate them too.
Well, and they're moving so fast to Idaho.
Yeah.
What a time, man. Oh,
why would you take your politics with you? Is it because of the social issues? I mean, maybe it's just the social issues.
People are fools, though. I mean, they really are. I mean, just facing facts. People are so foolish.
Yeah.
It is. People cannot. Well, people have been raised in public education, which does not teach logic or history very well. Right. That is just a mess. And so I don't think people have thought through things economically at all. Because if you had, you wouldn't be voting that way in the first place. And let alone carrying those things with you when, the taxes get too high and you move somewhere else.
What's funny is my buddy was saying, my liberal friend, he's like, I don't want to in any way be associated with being called a conservative, because to him, because he's Long Beach, right? I mean, a conservative means you're a racist. It means you're a white supremacist. It's like everything negative. And it's funny because I was like, I can understand that. Like, you're not wanting to be associated with that in any way, shape, or form, because I feel that same way about the Liberal Party. Like, everything that they stand for, I don't want to be associated with socialism. And he's like, yeah, well, the Republicans are socialists too. And I go, I know. That's why I'm not a Republican.
Yeah, I know.
Like, I'm not a socialist.
I know, man. Well, it would be nice for people to think things through. I mean, because typically, historically, liberal meant classically liberal, which was effectively libertarian. It was slightly more complicated, but effectively libertarian. And it was the Republican Party that functioned initially the closest to that. And so you have this movement where both parties have moved so far to the left. And ironically, what is called liberal, that the term was applied completely differently. It used to be liberal meant let's hear from every side. Let's give free speech to everybody so we can hear from everyone and acknowledge that some ideas are better than others, but we're not going to suppress that language. Well, that's the complete opposite with liberalism now. Now liberal means I'm liberal with someone else's money. I'm blowing money all over the place. I have no standards. Liberal now means boundaryless in every other sense of the word. And Republican just means one step over. Actually, it means what I would normally say. It's just corporate socialism as opposed to socialism for everybody else. Of course, they do that too. So what a mess. So anyway, I'm sorry for the bad situation that California is in. Here in Ohio, apparently we're number 23, so we're middle of the road, but it's still not freedom all the way.
When you're 25, when you are literally at the middle, you're what we call the best of the worst of the best. You're the cream of the crap. You guys are that close to being the cream of the crap.
Pretty close. We're pretty close. Yeah, of course, if you understand that all gun laws are unconstitutional and are thus illegal, and so then you don't follow them, and it doesn't matter that much.
But Dan, what about all of the drug dealers? They shouldn't have the right to have a gun anymore, right? They're drug dealers.
I personally don't even believe that they should have to go to jail for selling drugs.
Well, and you saw that the House passed, marijuana to not be illegal.
Yeah.
And if you looked at the numbers, it was like all but 6 Democrats were for it. All but 5 Republicans were against it. And I don't remember what the one independent was.
Yeah.
Probably for it because it was probably a libertarian, right?
Yeah.
Probably Ron Paul or something, right? So, and then it goes to the Senate, and I'm like, yeah, okay, this is going to be like the House passed the national concealed carry. Like if you got a license in one state, it's good in every state. Mm-hmm. And then the Senate, literally, they did what they had to do, which was let's read it twice and never vote on it. And that's why they never voted on it. And then it died, and then the Republicans got booted out of the House. And it's like, okay, now it has no chance of coming back. Yeah. So I'm looking at this too, because I'm with you. I don't think marijuana should be illegal. I don't think most of the plant-based, totally natural drugs should be illegal. But it's like, it's never going to make it back because of the Senate. Like the Republicans control it. So they're not going to vote on it or it's not going to pass.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're talking about expunging a lot of records.
That would be wonderful. That would be wonderful.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, there's so many reasons. I keep going back to, I mean, people know that I'm a pastor, I'm a Christian. I am close to, in a broad sense, would be called a theonomist. I don't agree with most theonomists on how they apply it, but essentially I'm like, if I look at the law of God, the criminal code in the Old Testament is pretty good. We kill murderers, somebody steals something, we make them pay it back. It's pretty simple. Now, I don't agree with the way that theonomists apply a lot of things, but I'm like, I would much rather have that than to have our jails full, absolutely full of non-violent drug criminals. And then there's not room for rapists in there. Why is it that we got guys on drug criminal charges who stay in there for most of their lives and never actually harmed anyone, never actually used force, and yet the child rapist still lives down the road from us?
Right.
That's ridiculous. That is not justice in any sense of the word. And I would much rather have a situation where the child rapists get the death penalty, and the drug dealer doesn't get anything other than shame for selling something that's worthless. And the thief just gets forced to pay back and work with his hands. I would much rather have that than what we've got right now. So anyway, on a brighter note, can I talk about a fun gun? I don't know how much time we have. I don't know how long.
I got plenty of time, man. Whatever.
So there were some guns released in 2020 that I just think are worth noting. And in all of the nightmare of everything crazy that's been and evil that's been going on in 2020, we've missed talking about some really fun guns. And so I wanted to take some time to address a few things. I am really excited. A lot of you guys know I like shooting my 22 long rifles. I like it because it's cheap, it doesn't make a lot of noise. It's small enough caliber. My kids can shoot it. It's fun. Like 22, I associate with fun. So I'm really interested in this POF Rebel. So Patriot Ordnance, I think it's Patriot Ordnance Factory. But they always abbreviate to POF. POF released this thing called the Rebel. If you're looking at it, it looks like a standard AR pistol. However, it takes Ruger 1022 magazines, which a lot of us have because a lot of us have the Ruger 1022s. So it's effectively an AR pistol. The internal function is not AR, so I don't think we can actually call it an AR pistol in the technical sense. But it'll take AR pistol blades or whatever you want to call them, AR braces. It's got M-LOK front rail, so you can attach whatever to that stuff. 8-inch barrel. So this tiny little AR-style pistol takes 1022 magazines. I am really interested in this.
There has got to be absolutely no recoil on that sucker.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be a dream. Hardly going to do anything at all. It's probably going to be really quiet. And it has the threading is 1/2 to 28. So that's, I mean, you can put a suppressor on that. So that's really nice. I can put any kind of suppressor I want to on that. In fact, theoretically, I could get a longer rail on that thing and actually put a can on it that is recessed into the rail. Man, that's some good fun right now. So I'm going to encourage everybody, look up the POF Rebel. I've always liked POF. They make a lot of good quality stuff. They're probably overpriced to some degree, but everything I've seen from them has seemed really high quality. Worth checking them out. Check out this POF Rebel. I think it's going to be something that gets them a little bit of attention. So, I mean, I'm just looking at that right now. I want to take that out to the range.
It looks fun, man. I'll tell you that. Here in California, illegal. Can't get it.
Oh, of course not. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a pistol, which means it's not on the roster. There's no way you're getting that in California.
Yeah, man.
It's a crying shame too, because it looks like a dream.
Yeah. Well, and as long as we're talking about pistols, so some of you guys like the Springfield Saint line of ARs. You see that they released the Springfield Edge PDW?
That's a while ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, I thought it was. Is it 2020? I thought it came out either earlier this year, maybe it was late 2019, or maybe I'm just thinking of it the wrong way. But 5.5-inch barrel on this thing. It's a nice little. So if you essentially are taking what we're talking about with the POF Rebel, the Springfield Edge is that in 5.56. But they're little. They're their pistol brace system is kind of a nice system on that thing. It's just a good little gun. I mean, it's going to be loud as heck. It's going to be a mess. Overall length of the thing is less than 19 inches. That's a nice little close range. I'll call it home defense, call it whatever you want. That's another one I'm really liking. I don't know. Do you have a favorite from this year? Because I only have one more that I want to mention.
Well, I would just say this, that if I was living in a free state, I would be getting a Springfield AR pistol.
Yeah, buddy.
I would probably be getting it in 300 blackout, but 100% that's what I'd be getting, mainly because my favorite AR is my Springfield Saint. That was the first AR I bought.
Still the favorite?
It's still my favorite.
What do you like about it so much?
I think it's just because it was my first. It was my first, and you got that fond memory of your first AR.
Yeah. Well, they make a solid gun. I think, I think some of these guys have become AR snobs, and they're so into their specialty race builds that's, designed for the super fast whatever, and anything that's like made by a regular manufacturer they think is crappy. And I'm like, Springfield makes a really solid gun, and a cool gun at that.
Yeah, what I would say too is I think if you're looking at basically a mil spec AR, I honestly, personally don't believe there's a whole lot of difference between anybody. Mil spec AR.
Yeah.
Really, you're paying for the brand. That's what you're paying for.
I would say if it is indeed mil spec, I think you're exactly right. There's a few of these companies that are a little fly by night that I got some shady vibes on. Right. And honestly, even then, you're probably still going to be fine. But there's some of these where I'm like, okay, but is it really mil spec? If you're truly talking mil spec, though, it's hard to go wrong. And I've never had one go bad on me.
Well, that's the thing, right? I mean, you're talking about a design that's how many decades old now?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're in the mil spec range, the thing's going to be solid.
Yeah. Well, and think about, I'm not going to run it like a military. Like, think about in the military, how many 100 rounds are going through it every year? How many 1,000 rounds are going through it every
day?
And then it's getting handed to the next guy, right? And so they're getting so much use. Man, the civilian is just not going to put that many rounds through it. Right. Ironically, part of the reason
especially
why
now.
Can't. Well, and ironically,
being as expensive as it is.
Yeah. Well, they're so expensive, but then also your tax money is going for the military guys that are having to put through, 1,000 rounds every day training or whatever it is that they're going to do. So yeah, I'm paying for somebody else's ammo through my taxes, and that's why I can't buy my own to shoot as much as I would like. So the only other gun that I want to mention, and there's some other cool guns that came out this year, but that I'm just honestly not as excited about. A lot of people are excited. I'll give this just kind of a quick mention. The Sig Sauer Copperhead, the MPX, fun little pistol as far as, really, really small thing. There's just hardly any barrel there though. I'm not sure of the practical value of it, but it looks really cool. So if you want to check the thing out, that looks like fun. The feedback I have gotten from people who know better than me, they're not excited about it. I'm looking at it, I'm like, it looks like fun, but there's just hardly any barrel. And I don't know. I'm sure it serves its purpose, but I'm not sure it's going to do what I want it to do.
What about your FN7?
Well, that's what I'm about to get at.
Okay.
Well, here's two things. FN released their 5.7 pistol, FN 5.7, and of course that what at the time was a brand new round in the 5.7. What I probably should mention, because FN is going to be ridiculously expensive, Ruger released their 5.7. That's what released this year. I think I got excited talking about FN earlier. Ruger is the one that released theirs, and it was either this year or the end of 2019. It's a brand new gun. The Ruger 5.7 makes that 5.7 round a little bit more accessible to the average guy. Still, it's Ruger. They still make a really solid gun. You're not going to be paying for the name in the 5.7, but it allows.
That's a gorgeous looking gun too.
It is nice. So the Ruger 5.7, if you're thinking about getting a 5.7 and you don't want to pay the crazy amount of money, you might want to think about Ruger. It's under $700 for this thing. And if you look at one of those rounds, man, the 5.7 round looks really, really long compared to like a 9mm or whatever. Lot of juice behind that, man. You're talking about a slightly smaller bullet with a good bit more powder behind it. In fact, if you look at those, if you've never seen one, the 5.7 has a tapered casing on it. So I mean, it looks like a rifle, looks like a rifle caliber round, right? So you got a lot of powder behind a relatively small but still big enough bullet. Just some really exciting things. The reason why I want to mention the 5.7 is the very fact that Ruger has released a 5.7 caliber pistol tells you that we're starting to see a movement in which that round is going to become a little bit more commonplace. It's one thing when FN releases it for all the people who have lots of money. Once Ruger starts making something, it's still going to be quality, but the message gets out there that like this is for the everyman. And I think we're going to start seeing more people make 5.7 pistols. I think we're going to see more whatever ammo manufacturers making it. I think the price of the round is going to come down. And I would say at a time like this, when 9mm is so expensive because of all of the run, and I recognize everything is expensive, we're starting to see people show some interest in some of these lesser popular rounds that were really expensive, and that was the reason why they weren't as popular. I think we're going to see a little bit more energy being put behind making this ammo. I think we're going to see the ammo price go down. I think we're going to see more manufacturers make pistols in 5.7. We have my understanding is that there's just a lot of movement in that. You might think about getting yourself a 5.7, and if you're going to get a 5.7, I would probably jump on this Ruger 5.7 before I would do the FN, just for the sake of the cost comparison. So,
I really want a 10mm Glock.
Yeah, I got a buddy that's got one.
Does he?
Yeah. So he got it. He got it so that he could, and then he got an extra barrel for it. So he got it so he could use it for defense, and then also use it for boar hunting.
Okay.
And I'm like, well played, my friend. It's a tank, man. It's got some juice on it. That 10mm is not a joke.
I would really like to have one.
Yeah, I'll have to put you in contact. He's been out shooting it. I'm pretty sure I shot it with him. It's not terrible with the recoil. I mean, for being such a powder packed round.
Right.
It's good fun, man. I like that 10mm.
That and the other gun I'd really like to get my hands on is a yeet cannon. Just because I just want it because it's a yeet cannon. But again, it's not on the roster here in California. That ain't worth the premium to
oh my, yeah. I wonder if somebody's got a yeet cannon out there that they're
I should look at Cal Guns and see if someone's got a yeet cannon for sale.
See, because you know what? It's going to be like $700.
Oh, dude, yeah, probably would be, just so someone could have a yeet cannon in California.
Oh man, now that's making me want to get one again.
I know, right?
I just put tires on my car today, and I'm like, I could have bought a gun with that. I'm like, I could have bought two. I could have bought two yeet cannons with what it cost me to put tires on my car.
Dude, I'm in negotiations right now to pick up another pistol in private party, which here in California has got to go through a dealer, so it'll be all on the up and up. But I'll let you guys know when I get it and I take it out and shoot it. But we're still working out the details on it.
Nice.
But I should be adding one to the old Mitchell collection.
Nice. Good stuff, man. Well, that's all I have today. There's other guns that came out that are nice. I'm not saying anything bad about them. These are just the ones I'm excited about. So definitely, if you got a chance to get your hands on that Ruger 5.7, go for it. I think we're going to only see better prices on 5.7 ammo, unless Kamala Harris comes in and we just see the end of the world as we know it. That could happen. I'm just, all of this is contingent upon relative freedom still being.
I've got so many friends who are like, I think the Boogaloo Boys are going to start a civil war, and I'm like, I don't see them starting it. I see them not backing down from it if it comes their way. That's really what I see.
Well, see, what people don't realize, because when all of the news, and man, they were crafty, when the news became so adamant about making that sound like a racist term.
Oh, I know.
right?
They're white
and
supremacists. No.
well, and the reality is,
Tell that to all the black people, all the Native
oh my God.
Americans, the
Well,
Pacific Islanders that are in it.
but one thing that you'll notice is the fact that nobody wanted to use that term. Because like the alt-right guys, they're happy to use the term because they know they're racist and they're happy to be racist. And when you say that, yes, racists like to tell everybody they're racist, right? Because they think they're better. Man, but the Boogaloo guys immediately quit using the term, which tells you there were good dudes out there.
Right.
And so we played around with, my favorite was at some point it was called the CNN quinceañera. But here's what people don't realize. The word got out among those dudes that like, we can't joke about it anymore. So everybody moved from sharing memes and talking about it online to doing real shit. And what people don't realize is those dudes were serious. They're peaceful. But they've gotten organized and they're quiet and organized and they're recruiting to a totally nonviolent approach where they're like, man, I don't want to go and hurt anybody, but I'll show up at your house and I'll back you up if it goes down. And those dudes are serious. And they're good dudes and half of them are military veterans. So I think
they're the ones that know just how bad war really is. That's why I don't see them starting anything. They're the ones who were on the front lines. They saw their buddies get shot. Maybe they themselves got shot. I mean, they know the horror of war, and that's why I don't see them starting it, but I don't see them backing down from it if it comes their way.
No, not at all. Well, I mean, I know of people let's see, let me say this the right way. They are deployed right now, and they're talking about what it's going to be like to get home and be ready to fight again when they get back here. That language is being used and they're saying like, for crying out loud, I'm risking my life over here and I'm losing my freedom at home while I'm doing it. I'm not going to put up with that crap. Right. And, that's, I don't think people realize how that goes.
Hence a lot of the red flag laws, because who do they want to take it away from? Veterans. Why? Veterans. They're the ones who know how to fight.
Yeah.
I mean, they got more experience than you and I have by far.
Yeah. Oh man.
You and I train in the comfort of a nice little range. No one's shooting at us.
Yeah.
I mean, we're hitting paper targets. They've actually been on the battlefield. They know what war is all about.
Well, they know. I heard a story from a dude who was talking about training, and this dude, he's seen action, right? And he's like, it'll surprise you. He's like, we've had dudes who were brave and surprised the heck out of us the way they would man up. And he's like, we had dudes who'd been in a whole lot of firefights that snapped one day and were hiding. And they came around. He's like, but it's funny how there's a lot of mental stuff going on. But they're also like, they have a very real understanding of what it's going to be like if it goes to that. And they are mentally resolute and ready to go there. And man, the over eager cop willing to enforce a mask order and do something that's unconstitutional has never dealt with a guy like him. And I don't think they want to. And so let's hope that cooler heads prevail and that freedom is preserved. But I think you're right. I don't think the CNN quinceañera crowd is going to start anything, but they just might finish it if it goes down. And I definitely understand that.
Hey, and then full auto will be legal again.
Yeah. It's going to be awesome.
What I love is how in Afghanistan, every family's allowed to have a full auto AK.
Yeah.
But not here in America.
I've been having conversations like this. I was explaining our taxes to a guy in a Central American country that since the 80s has effectively been controlled by the Communist Party. It's more complicated than that, whatever, because they're not really communist. It's not the Communist Party, but they were communist-ish, right? And when I'm explaining all of because they don't have building codes, they don't have whatever, and I'm explaining all the things we have to pay taxes on, and this guy's like, that is a lot of taxes, man. Like, that's crazy. I don't want to, and when a dude in a Central American country that's partially communist controlled is shocked at all the taxes and lack of freedom we have, yeah, that's a little bit weird. That actually broke my heart.
They hate us because we're free. Oh, I hate it when people say that. I'm like, you're an idiot. That is not it at all. But you know, if you think about it, okay, I know we're out of time here, but you made me think of this.
Yeah.
The marriage tax. And I'm not just talking about when you got to file jointly. I mean the fact that you have to pay the government to get a piece of paper that says you can marry someone.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason we have that, literally, we're talking about something that is a religious institution. The idea of marriage, it's a religious thing. And the government goes, well, wait a second. We can tax people differently if they're married than if they're single, but we got to have a way that we know that they're actually married. Let's make them give us some money for a little piece of paper.
Yeah.
Freaking tax. When my dog, I had this one dog that could literally jump our 12-foot fence. It was freaking crazy, man. This dog just had mad hops. And she was a pit bull, so it scared all the freaking neighbors like crazy, right?
That's awesome.
She would jump the fence, and then animal control came, and they're like, "Oh, we see you don't have a license for this dog." And I'm like, "Yeah, I don't believe in a dog tax." Well, it's not a tax; it's a license. I'm like, "You asking money from me, right? And you're forcing me to do it, right?" Yeah. I'm like, "That's a tax."
Yep.
Freaking tax, man. Oh, you want to go fishing? Tax. Oh, you want to go hunting? Tax.
Yep.
Oh, you want to drive your car? Tax. Oh, you want to go on this freeway over here? Tax. It's all tax.
Yep.
It's crazy. We fought a whole revolution over 3% import tax. And look at us today.
I know.
It's ridiculous.
It is. I got to calm myself down. I shouldn't say anything else because I'll get so angry. And then I'll be on more watch lists than I'm already on.
You can't get on any more watch lists. They're just going to raise the level. I
know. Like this guy.
Yeah. You're going to go from being he's got sprinkles on his flag. Nope, he's a full red flagger.
That's right.
He's got stripes. Nope, not anymore. No more stripes. He's full red.
That's it. He's a red flag. Oh man. So anyway, that's life today. Interesting things. Check out that check out one of the fun guns that we've just recommended at a gun store near you. Good stuff. All that said, of course, check out Lake Erie Arms. We've got some fun stuff, learms.net. Some exciting things. We actually, I got to say this last thing. I'm sorry. But Smith & Wesson is now advertising bug out bag setups where it comes with a first aid kit, Smith & Wesson, I think in a 9mm, 5 extra mags, and it comes in this kind of satchel thing. And I think there's something else in there, a mask, right? But like they're actually, like the tag on it is a bug out setup. And I'm like, man, when a major gun manufacturer is releasing a setup to advertise for apocalyptic scenarios, like that's telling us something. Like there's enough people interested in that we're actually marketing to that, not just at an individual level, but at a national level. So anyway, we've got those, and they're pretty cool. Check them out. We've got some special packages with ARs too, but learms.net is where you check us out online. Definitely come in the store to get those kind of things because we're not selling those online right now. But come on by and always be ready. Stay strapped or get clapped, as we say.
Cool. All right, guys. We'll be back next week. Talk to you all then. Take care.
You've been listening to the From Concealment Podcast with Pete Mitchell and Dan Sams. Be sure to tune in next week for more gun talk. Also, check out the From Concealment website for more shooting-related goodness at FromConcealment.com.